Ladies and gentlemen, today is the day where I go through and break down my 24-1 League 2 table predictions for the 2025-26 campaign. If you do go on to enjoy today's video, please make sure to drop a like on there for me and subscribe to the channel as well. If you are new, can we try and hit 200 likes on today's video? And don't forget to get your thoughts in down in the comment section down below. Let me know down below your bottom two, your top seven, all that sort of stuff, and how do you think your club will get on in League 2 at next campaign. Now, obviously, I am a Bradford City fan. I am delighted we are out of this hellhole of a division, but I'm still going to do my predictions for League 2. It's been the league that I've obviously been covering in a lot of detail over the last 6-7 seasons, so you would like to think I know a little bit about this league. Let's waste no further time and get straight into it. Starting out then at the bottom of the table, obviously nobody wants their team to be in this position, but I do have to put two teams who will be relegated, because surprisingly at the end of next season 2 teams will be relegated. In 24th position then, I have Accrington Stanley. Obviously, last campaign in League 2 finished 21st. They finished 8 points above the drop zone, just about managed to tick over to 50 points in the end. I look at the transfer business that they've done. They've brought in the 3 players so far. Freddie Sass from Kings Lynn in the National League North, Isaac Sinclair from Curzon Ashton in the National League North, and Oliver Wright from Southampton's under-21s, obviously been playing in the Premier League 2. They are the only incomings that Accrington have seen so far. And you look at the departures, there's nothing really too significant in there. Obviously, Ash Hunter has left the club. He gives you a little bit of quality in that final third, but I think their squad is in a very similar position as to what it was last campaign, and you're not going to have a Morecambe this season. And I think it's quite unlikely we'll see something like what Carlisle are going to bring, or did bring at last campaign. So I think the bottom of the table, it's going to be very tight. I don't see there being many points between 24th up to like 19th, somewhere like that. I don't really see there being much quality in this Accrington side. Obviously, they are one of the smaller clubs in the division, and for me personally, I believe they will be going down next season in 24th. Next up then, in 23rd position, I am going to go with Cheltenham Town. Now, obviously, last campaign, they had a pretty decent first season back in League 2, but I just don't see enough quality in their side. Obviously, they finished 15th last campaign. They conceded 70 goals, which was the 4th worst in the entire division, despite actually scoring 60, which was, I think, the joint best in the entirety of the bottom half. Swindon, up in 12th, scored 71, but they actually scored 8 more goals than Colchester last campaign, just 1 less than Grimsby. Scoring goals wasn't the issue. They scored more goals than Wimbledon, who finished in 5th, but defensively they were absolutely awful last campaign. And with the strong rumours that Jordan Thomas will be leaving the club, Ethan Archer as well, I just don't see enough firepower in that front line going into next season. They've signed Lee Angle as a man to try and help score some more goals. I just don't really see it. I don't think he's an awful option, but I think they could certainly done a lot better. They've brought in 36-year-old James Wilson and 28-year-old Robbie Cundy as 2 centre-back options. Again, Wilson, I mean, the guy's almost 40 now, despite him being an okayish player for this level. And Robbie Cundy has massively struggled with injuries. So, in Cheltenham's case, going into next season, when I look at the couple of departures that they've had, nothing really too significant as of right now, but I feel like come the end of the transfer window, some of their better younger talents will have moved on, and they definitely won't be reinvesting that money into the playing squad. So for me personally, might be slightly controversial, but I'm going with Cheltenham to go down this season. In 22nd place, and just about surviving the drop, I am going to go with Harrogate Town. Obviously, last campaign, they finished up in 18th, and in the end were 11 points above the drop zone. Scored 43 goals, also conceded at 61 at last campaign, and their transfer business so far, there's not been too much that has massively stood out. At the time of recording, they've still kept a hold of Ellis Taylor, which is very important for them. If they are to survive next season, they need to keep him, or if he does go, they do need to adequately replace him. Obviously, they've lost Josh March as well to a fellow League 2 side, which is a big blow. And the likes of Josh Falkenham has also moved on this summer. I look at their striking options. Jack Muldoon, decent play, but he is now 36, and they're also then now relying on Tom Curzons to come good and Sean Mikulski to provide goals in League 2. I just don't see it. I think it's good news they've kept around Anthony O'Connor for the next couple of seasons, and obviously James Belshaw is still at the football club as well, but I think there's a real lack of quality in that Harrogate squad, and I definitely do see them struggling at this campaign. I think they'll just about survive, but it will be by the skin of their teeth. I'm going 22nd. In at 21st position then, I am going to go with Newport County. Obviously last campaign they finished in 22nd and only just about managed to avoid relegation. Yes, they were 7 points above the drop zone in the end, but they only picked up 2 points out of their last possible 5 matches, which is obviously not great. They conceded 76 goals last campaign, which was the worst in the entire division. They obviously just had some decent attacking talent at the top end of the pitch. I look at their incoming so far, there's nothing that's really standing out as unbelievably great signing to me. I think they're going to be relying on a lot of the quality from last campaign, the likes of Bobby Camwer, the likes of Courtney Baker-Richardson chipping in with goals going forward, but defensively they were absolutely awful. They have brought in a few players to try and rectify that, but there's no real standout names as a solid League 2 centre-half, so I could certainly see it being another similar season where the scoring goals is not really the issue, but they have a few games where they get battered 4-5-0. I'd certainly see that happening a couple of times next season for Newport. I think they'll survive just about, but it's not going to be an enjoyable watch again for the Exiles next campaign. In at 20th place then, and slightly climbing up the table, I'm going to go with Walsall FC. Now obviously I did a video last week talking about Walsall and their potential relegation, the threat and battle that they might be in next campaign, and a lot of the Walsall fans were very, very angry about that video, but as always, it's just my personal opinion. If you disagree, that's great news. My actual prediction doesn't mean you're going to finish there. But I look at the Walsall squad, I look at the players that have left and the players that they've brought in. I am concerned about them going into next season. There's not a single goal scorer in this side. Aaron Presley might get you double figures, but then you're also looking at the likes of Josh Gordon, Jamil Matt. It's 2025 that we're talking about, and Jamil Matt is still going to be getting minutes for Walsall. They're also still kept around Albert Adoma, but where does he fit into this Walsall system? They've brought in a lot of younger players from non-league, and then you've got the odd experienced addition with the likes of Aidan Flint, but he's now 36 and his legs definitely have gone. I just don't see enough quality in this side going forward with Jamie Jellis. Obviously, probably going to get a ban as well for over 2,000 alleged gambling offences, which is obviously not ideal for them, but there's not enough creativity. They're massively lacking options in the midfield. I think they're certainly very light in there. The form that they're coming off the back of from last campaign, I think it was just 3 wins post-January, which is absolutely awful. They were terrible once Nathan Lowe did leave. They're coming off the back of an awful end to last campaign. Despite getting all the way to the playoff final and doing well in the semi-finals against Chesterfield, they then just couldn't get over the line. They've got a losing mentality in that squad. The discontent between the fans and the manager is one of the worst I've ever seen, and that's been a Bradford City fan who has seen us in the last 6-7 seasons in League 2, and our fans were incredibly toxic, deservedly so at times, towards managers, but the discontent, I've never seen anything like it, like what it is at Walsall. They'll be hoping for a bit of, they need a good start to the season. If they don't win in their first 3 matches, they will be hounding Matt Sadler out of the club. They've got the money to spend, but they just don't seem to want to spend it. They're losing players like Ryan Stirk to Chesterfield, Liam Gordon to Port Vale. Their squad is considerably weaker than last campaign. I see them being nowhere near the top half of the table. I'm going 20th for the Saddlers. In 19th position, I am going to go with Oldham Athletic. Now, obviously, last campaign, they did win the Vanarama National League playoffs. This season, it will be their first bag in the Football League for, I think, 3 or 4 seasons, something like that. It's always nice to see a club like Oldham back in League 2. They come in and already one of the bigger clubs in the division, and obviously my team Bradford City played against Oldham in a friendly just a couple of days ago, and they look like a really good team but very toothless. I don't think they've scored a single goal throughout pre-season, and while they've got some good quality in there, especially in the midfield, I do like people like Ryan Woods in there. I think Tom Pett, very energetic. They've got some decent quality in there. I think scoring goals is going to be a big problem for them this season. You look at their options, you're relying on Mike Fondop. Well, I know he's God's number 9. I don't see him doing it in League 2. Kian Harrott, who I think has probably killed more animals and scored professional goals in his career, and also Joe Garner, who's now 37. I mean, I know they had James Norwood, and he's obviously moved on to a fellow League 2 side. You're also looking at Kane Drummond, who played right back against Bradford, and Billy Waters, who, has he ever really done it in the Football League? I just think there's going to be a lot of games where Oldham lose 1 or 2-0 next campaign, if I'm being completely honest with you, because defensively they seem quite organised, but going forward they need to get a real starting goal-scoring striker, and I just don't see them doing that. They've got a lot of older players on bigger money. I think they'll be fine for a first season back in League 2, but I don't really see them challenging this season, if I'm honest, unless they bring a striker in. In 18th place, I'm going to go with Bromley FC. Obviously, last campaign, they finished up in 11th, and it was a great debut season for the Ravens for their first time in League 2. This season, I do see them having a little bit of second season syndrome and dropping off slightly, but I think they've got a great manager in Andy Woodman. I see Michael Cheek still scoring goals, but not necessarily as many as what he got last campaign. I think he'll still get 15, 20, something like that, but I don't think he'll get as high as 25, and I do think they did massively rely on his goal scoring threat for last campaign. Defensively though, they are going to be pretty organised. So look at their options that they've brought in. I do like the signings of Mitch Pinnock and William Hondermatt coming in from Northampton. They're two decent additions for this level. There's not really much that needed to be added. I think they could maybe do with another potential centre-half as well, but on the whole, they've got the experience mixed with the youth. I think Bromley are going to have another solid season in League 2 next year. In 17th place, I'm going to go with Barrow AFC. Obviously, last campaign, they finished in 16th and ended the season pretty solidly. They were unbeaten in at least their last 5 matches. Granted, the last 4 of them were all draws, and they scored 52 goals, they conceded 50. It was just kind of one of them seasons for Barrow where they just existed. Didn't really flirt much with the playoffs, and obviously they have lost a few key players this transfer window. The likes of Kean Spence moving to Rotherham, Dean Campbell moving to Northampton. But they've brought in the next batch of players that they'll be hoping can kick on and develop at Barrow, because they are obviously a develop and selling club. They've brought in Regan Booty. I really like that signing from Gateshead. Going forward, their striker options are not amazing, if I'm honest, in Hemmings, Kiyate, Walker and Cameron. I just don't see enough goals out of them, if I'm being completely honest with you. They do still have some decent players in there. You all know how highly I do rate somebody like Ben Jackson, but it's clear to see the need to get some more centre-halves in through the door. According to Transfermarkt, they've only got 2 on the books at the moment, and the season starts in less than a week. So I'm a little bit concerned from that point of view about Barrow, but I think on the whole, they will be pretty solid. They'll be fine this season. I'm going 17th for Barrow. In 16th place, I'm going with Crewe Alexandra. Last campaign, they ended it absolutely awfully. They finished in 13th. They lost 4 of their last 5, drawing the other game in there as well. They were absolutely awful. They were great up until Christmas, and their downfall wasn't really seen because of how bad Walsall's was, but Crewe were up in 2nd at one point around Christmas time, and they massively fell off. And it's a consecutive season, 2 seasons in a row where that has now happened for Crewe. And I look at their business, there's not been much of it so far, but there's not a lot that's really massively standing out for me. I do like the loan signings of O'Reilly and Tesgill. I think there'll be decent options for them. Josh March comes in as another option at the top end of the pitch, but not really a goal scorer, and I just think it's going to be another mess season for Crewe. They've not got the likes of Tom Lowry, Conor O'Riordan, who obviously on loan for the second half of last campaign. I think their squad is a little bit weaker than what it was last season, and I think they're going to just be in the lower part of mid-table. Not really a lot to write home about for Crewe this season. In 15th place, I'm going to go with Fleetwood Town. It would be a slight decline on last campaign, where they did finish in 14th. Again, 15 wins, 15 draws, 16 defeats, 60 goals scored, 60 conceded, 0 goal difference and 60 points. They were a very mid-table side at last campaign, very inconsistent, and I think they could kick on under Pete Wild. They've got the likes of Zach Medley returning from injury this season, but obviously they have seen a few pretty significant departures. The big one is obviously Brendan Weirdo, who's gone over to Plymouth in League 1. Phoenix Patterson's made a step up a division as well to join Stevenage. I look at the incomings that they've brought. There's a lot of experience coming in the front line in 36-year-old Ched Evans, who returns for his 3rd stint at the club, and 34-year-old James Norwood as well. I like the signing of Denver Hume, good attacking left-back. Toby Malaki is a decent centre-half option, but obviously a big downgrade on Brendan Weirdo. I think it'll just be another mess season really for the Cods, where they are very inconsistent, and I think they'll probably finish in and around 15th. In 14th place, I'm going to go with last season's National League champions Barnet FC. Now, I can't really say coming up from the National League I know much about their squad that has already existed, but they've clearly done a lot of transfer business. Ollie Hawkins will provide a wealth of experience either as a striker or a centre-half. Manuel Sidibe, former Bradford City man, coming back up into the Football League as well. Not entirely convinced by that signing. I really do like the addition of Romany Critchlow. Obviously, he's 26 years of age, so still lots of time for him to develop. I think he's moved back down closer to home. Loved his time at Bradford City, was solid for us last campaign. Technically one of the best centre-halves in the division, just physically can lose a few joules at times as well, but I think Barnet could have certainly done a lot worse. Adam Senior's come in as well. I think that is a decent option. They've also brought in Ryan Galvin, both of them coming in from Halifax. I think they've recruited pretty well on the whole. I see Barnet being fine on the whole this season, so I'm going to back them to finish in 14th. In 13th place, and the final team that would complete my bottom half, I'm going with Cambridge United. Obviously relegated from League 1 at last campaign. They were pretty poor on the whole. I think that is putting it very lightly. I'll look at their signings so far, and some of the options that they've brought in I do think are pretty good for this level. I like the signing of Pelly Ruddock and Panzu. Yes, he's now 31 years of age, but Don Ball also joins him in the midfield. I think them two will be very smart options to have going into next campaign. But it's going forward where I think they're going to struggle for goals next season when you're relying on Elias Kachunga, Ryan Loft, Shane Lavery, who can be a little bit injury prone. I'm just not entirely convinced they'll score enough goals next season to really challenge for the top 7. I do like both of their right backs in Liam Bennett and James Gibbons as well. Look at their centre half options, and Michael Morrison still kicking around at 37 years of age. But I just don't think Cambridge have done enough business to turn around that losing mentality from last campaign to kick on this season. So I think they'll finish in 13th position for me. Into the top half then, in 12th place, I'm going with another team that were relegated from League One last campaign, and that is Crawley Town. Obviously, they did quite well under Scott Lindsay. Then he left and they were pretty poor under Rob Elliott, I want to say his name is. And obviously Scott Lindsay came back and had a few very good results. I remember when they battered Rotherham away from home. But they have lost a few of their better players from last campaign. Obviously Will Swan has joined my team, Bradford City. Very happy with that signing. 10 goal contributions in 31 starts. For some reason the Crawley fans were happy to see the back of him, but he's looked very good in pre-season for us. And they've lost a few others as well. Obviously the best player in the world in Josh Kelly has gone over to America as well. And they've still got some decent players in this squad. I like Joe Wallacott in between the sticks. I like Dion Pereira, who's come in from Luton Town. Apart from that, some of their signings are a little bit bizarre, if I'm honest with you. Kabongo Shamanga might get 3 open play goals, but probably score 20 from the penalty spot next season. Danny Cashman has made a step up from the National League South with Woven, and I think that could prove to be a smart addition. But I'm just not sure with Crawley. They're always very hard to predict because they've got a great manager in Scott Lindsay, and the quality in that squad on paper isn't always amazing. So I'm going to go safe for my prediction and put them in 12th. In 11th position, I'm going to go with another team that were relegated from League One at last campaign, and that is at Shrewsbury Town. I look at their squad, and obviously the quality from last season clearly wasn't there in League One, but the standard of League Two is considerably worse than what it is in League One. And people like Alex Gilliard, Harrison Biggins, these sort of players will be they're among some of the better players in this division, which goes to show how bad that League 2 obviously is. And I look at some of their signings, I think they've brought in some great defensive options in Sam Stubbs. Will Boyle is a brilliant signing. Tom Anderson, plenty of experience. Tom Sang, decent fullback. Sam Klukas comes in with a wealth of experience in the midfield. Anthony Scully, if you can keep him fit, will be a decent League 2 option. They've got some decent goal-scoring strikers in George Lloyd and John Marquis as well. Their squad is very small. They need to bulk it out a little bit, and then maybe they can challenge for the top 7. But Shrewsbury, I see them finishing 11th. In 10th position then, I'm going to go with Tranmere Rovers. Obviously last campaign they were absolutely awful for the majority of it. In the end they finished in 20th, but under Nigel Adkins they were destined for non-league. Thankfully though, Andy Crosby eventually took over and kind of guided them away from relegation. In the end, they finished 9 points above the drop zone, winning their final 2 matches, just 1 defeat in their last 5 as well. And I look at some of their transfer business, and I think it has been very good on the whole. Richie Smallwood for me is a massive standout. That is an absolutely outstanding addition. The best holding midfielder in the entire division last campaign. A lot of Bradford fans were disappointed to see him leave. Yes, we've brought in Max Power, but Smallwood I think is an unbelievable addition for Tranmere. Nathan Smith is a great option to have at centre-half. Patrick Brough and Ethan Bristow, 2 unbelievable left-backs for the level as well. They've brought in Noah Kenner, which I think could prove to be a smart addition, obviously. Charlie Whittaker has come in. Will he be able to kick on at Tranmere? Because it didn't really work out for him at Notts County. But then I look at their striking options, and that's what's letting me down from putting them in that top 7 this season. Josh Davison, Harvey Saunders, Christian Dennis, Connor Jennings, Sam Taylor and Sol Solomon. There's not enough goals amongst those 6 strikers. I think Christian Dennis might hit the most amount of goals. He's now 35, and I don't really see him getting many more than at double figures. I think they need to get a real statement signing it in that striker department if they do want to challenge for the top 7, but they're probably going to need to get a few of them off of the wage bill. They've still kept hold of the likes of Amari Patrick, Cameron Norman, Luke McGee, obviously one of the best goalkeepers in the division as well. I think they're only a striker or 2 away from really challenging for that top 7 this season. In 9th position then, I'm going to go with Notts County. Obviously last campaign it finished in 6th under the guidance of Stuart Maynard. This season they've brought in, I genuinely can't remember his name off the top of my head, the former Burton manager. I genuinely, why is his name just completely deceived me? I've completely forgotten his name, but he's come into the football club, and I'm not entirely convinced on him as a manager. They've lost David McGoldrick, which is a very, very significant loss. Alex Bass has also joined Peterborough in League One, and I don't think they've really replaced him with much better, and it seems to be the common theme at Notts County over the last couple of years. Lose one of your better players and then replace them with somebody a little bit worse. It's very rare they actually bring somebody in and improve on what was already there. Obviously, they've still got the likes of Matty Platt and Jacob Bido at the back. They've brought in Barry Cotter on loan, which I think could prove to be a smart addition. I do like the signing of Ollie Norburn in the midfield, and Tom Iorpender. I think that'll bring some real physicality in there, which they've missed massively over the last couple of years. Jody Jones is still at the club, but is he going to be able to rediscover his form pre-injury? Because last season was basically a write-off for him. Alassane Jatta doesn't really want to be at the football club, but I do like the signing of Matty Dennis. So I don't think Notts are a million miles away from challenging for that top 7, but I'm not entirely convinced by their manager, if I'm being completely honest. I don't think there's enough quality in that final third. There is some of it there in parts, but not consistently enough. You know, we're not looking at Crowley, McGoldrick and Langstaff anymore. You're looking at more probably Jarvis, Kouya, and maybe a Traore or a Dennis. You know, it is a big downgrade on what they once had. So for me, Notts County, I think they miss out on the playoffs this season. And the final team who I believe will miss out on the playoffs this season is Colchester United. Obviously, last campaign, they did just about miss out by, I think, just the 3 points, and that goes to show how poor their form was in the final 4 games. So they only picked up 2 out of their last 4 matches. They ended up finishing in 10th, like I say, just 3 points off of the playoffs. They only scored 52 goals, but also only conceded 47 as well, which I think is the 4th best defensive record in the entire division. They did rely a little bit too much going forward last campaign on Jack Payne, but I think again he'll probably have another very successful season with a load of goals and another load of assists. He's always been a player who's too good for League 2 but not good enough for League 1. I do like the loan signing of Will Goodwin. Jaden Williams has also joined the club as well. They're 2 decent striker options. Samson Tavide is still at the club at the time of recording, but the strong links with him making a move up to League 1 with Barnsley. They've obviously lost Fika Kelleher this summer, who was pretty solid for them on the whole last campaign. I don't think they really need to do much recruitment from a defensive point of view. Maybe another creative midfielder who can compete with Jack Payne, and potentially a right winger as well. I know they've got a couple of options, but I see this season as a bit more of another progressive season for Colchester, but unfortunately I just don't quite think they'll have enough to really challenge for that top 7 this season, and I do see them just about missing out. Into my top 7 then, and the first team that I believe will achieve the playoffs this campaign is Grimsby Town. Obviously last campaign they did miss out where they finished in 9th. They were 2 points off, and they didn't win a single match in their last 5, just 3 points picked up out of their last 5 matches. Grimsby really did crumble towards the back end of the campaign. They have made some good signings, also made some confusing signings. I'm not entirely convinced by the addition of Sam Lavelle, but I think Christy Pym is a solid League 2 goalkeeper. I think Jaden Sweeney is a more than adequate replacement as well for Denver Hume. Reece Staunton, former Bradford City man, I think that'll prove to be a smart addition for them as well. Jamie Walker, I think if you build the team around him, will be a really good player for Grimsby next season. Obviously last campaign his minutes at Bradford City were very limited, and that meant that his performances were quite inconsistent as well, but there is a very good player in there, and he's still only 32 years of age, hasn't struggled with injury at all last campaign. I don't think missed a game at all through injury last season. I know the term injury prone has been attached to Jamie Walker in the past, but I see him having a successful season as well. They've still kept hold of the likes of Kieran Green and Evan Corey as well. Charles Vernon, as we all know, if you can keep him fit, is a very good player, and they've still got Danny Rose leading the line as well. I do think they need another striker option or two to really compete with Danny Rose, and they could maybe do with another centre half potentially as well. I know they've got a good one in McJanet, but apart from that I'm not entirely convinced, to be completely honest. And maybe another right back as well. I think Tyrell Warren is the only natural right back in the squad, but on the whole I don't think Grimsby are too far away from maybe even competing for that top 3, to be honest. In 6th position I am going to go with Swindon Town. Obviously last campaign they finished in 12th, and just before Christmas when they were in and around them relegation sort of places, they brought in Ian Holloway. I thought that was them doomed. I thought they were definitely going to go down, but obviously he massively turned it around post-Christmas, and they were very good, especially at home. I think they only lost 1 or 2 matches at home after that, and you know they scored a lot of goals. 71 goals scored last campaign, which I think is the 4th or 5th best in the entire division, but they also conceded 63, which was the 2nd worst in the top 14, which is absolutely awful. So they need to improve on their their defence coming into this transfer window. They've brought in a lot of centre-backs. Will they definitely improve on where they were last campaign? I'm not entirely sure. A couple have come in on loan, one on a permanent as well, but not a single player over the age of 20 in the centre-back positions. I do like the addition of Darren Aldick. James Ball will provide some good experience as well in the midfield. They've brought in some decent attacking options. I like the signing of Billy Bowden. I think Jake Tabor is obviously a big question mark over him at the moment. Will he make a step up into League 2? They've still kept hold of Harry Smith as well. I think there's a lot of quality in that Swindon squad. They can mix it, they can match it, they can do whatever they want. They've got Ian Holloway. It's going to be fireworks next season, but I see them making it into the top 7 and I see them finishing in 6th. In 5th position, I'm going to go with the final team that were relegated from League 1 at last campaign, and that is Bristol Rovers. Obviously, they've brought back Darryl Clark to the football club, which I think is a great appointment, and their recruitment has been exceptional. Luke Southwood is a brilliant goalkeeper. Alfie Kilgore, pre-injury, was a very, very good League 2 defender. Post-injury hasn't quite been the same. I think the wing-back signings of Jack Sparks and Macaulay Salvam-Hales, again, if you can keep both of them fit, 2 unbelievable signings for this level. Josh McEachran brings a wealth of experience to the midfield as well. And there is already a lot of quality in that side. Promise Omocheri, if he could finish, would be a top-end League 1 striker, but his finishing really does let him down. They've still got a hold of Camille Conte as well, although I do eventually see him moving on to leagues higher. Isaac Hutchinson, last time he was in this division, absolutely did tear it apart. I do think they're a little bit light in numbers in the central midfield department and can maybe do with another striker as well, but I think on the whole, Bristol Rovers under Darryl Clark will have a successful season next year, and I see them finishing in 5th. In 4th place, and the final team who I believe will make it into the playoffs and just miss out on the automatic promotion places, I'm going to go with Gillingham FC. Obviously, last campaign finished in 17th and ended the season very well under Gareth Ainsworth. Defensively, they were a lot better, they were a lot more solid, a lot harder to beat, but the big problem for them last campaign was scoring goals. Just 41 goals scored in 46 matches. They scored the second least amount in the entire division last campaign. Only Morecambe scored less, and that was only with 40. So you've only scored one more goal than Morecambe. It's clear to see where all their problems did lie last campaign, and they've not done a massive amount of business so far. Just the 3 incomings. Obviously, Andy Smith, I think, was on loan with the club last season. They've made that into a permanent transfer. They've brought in Seb Palmer Holden as well, a 21-year-old youngster on a 3-year deal, and Sam Vokes as well, who Ainsworth would have worked with at Wickham, has come in on a 1-year deal as well. There is quality in this Gillingham side, as we've seen, but it's about getting the best out of them. Defensively, they're going to be resolute. They need to bring in some more creativity in there, maybe try and get a couple of them off the books. But I think Gareth Ainsworth is a brilliant manager, especially for this level, and I do see them being successful next season. So I'm going to back them to finish in 4th. Surely it's about time that Gillingham are successful this year. Surely. Moving on then into my top 3. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe if you haven't already. In 3rd place, I'm going to go with Salford City. Obviously, last campaign they finished in 8th and missed out on the playoffs on the final day after drawing with Carlisle, I do believe. But I think there's a lot of quality in that Salford squad, and last season they did struggle with injuries at times. I think they've got a good manager in Cal Robinson. He can come across as a bit of a baby at times, but I do think they've recruited pretty well in this transfer window. Yes, they've lost a few key players, but I think on the whole their squad is still pretty strong. I like the attacking options of George Grant and Kadeem Harris. Yes, they're both over the age of 30 now, but they are going to bring in some quality for this level. They've still got the likes of Kelly Namai at the football club, Osama Ashley in the midfield as well. They certainly need to bring in a couple of centre-halves for me. They've got a lot of right-backs, but not many centre-halves. But I think Salford, they'll be successful next season as long as they keep hold of the likes of Namai, who I think they will at this stage, unless they get a crazy offer, if I'm being completely honest. So Salford for me, I'm backing them to finish in 3rd and finally get out of League 2. In 2nd place, I'm going to go with last season's League 2 playoff semi-final losers in the way of Chesterfield FC. Obviously, they finished in 7th and ended the season very strongly. They were unbeaten in their last 5 games, and unfortunately in the playoffs just did not quite show up. But I like some of their recruitment so far. Zach Hemming has come in from Middlesbrough. That's a good goalkeeping option. Adam Lewis has come in as well at left back to replace Jack Sparks. Ryan Sturkey is a very good midfielder for this level as well. Obviously, their big statement signing is Dylan Markande. How on earth he's dropped back down to League 2, I'll never know. He's comfortably a very good standard League 1 winger. So how on earth Chesterfield have managed that, I will never know. Obviously, Jensen Metcalf was on loan there last season. There was rumours about him going back there. He has joined my team at Bradford City. I think they do need to keep up with this recruitment of signing the 20 to 26 year olds, because there is a lot of oldness in that squad. You know, you got Paddy Madden at 35, Will Grigg at 34, Ryan Colclough at 30, John Fleck at 33, you've got Tom Naylor at 34, Jano Donasian at 31 as well, Jamie Grimes at 34, Cal McFasdean at 38, you got Shea Dunkley at 33, Tyrone Williams at 30, Ryan Boot at 30. You know, there's a lot of experience in that side, so I think it's good that they've recruited a lot younger this summer. They've got a brilliant manager in Paul Cook as well, and I see them having another successful season. I think for a first season in League 2 to finish 7th, I only see them kicking on. They're going to have Mark Candy for the full season. Surely they're finishing that top 2 for me. And finally, winning the League 2 title this campaign for me, just as predicted last season, I'm going with Milton Keynes Dons. They've got an unbelievable manager in Paul Warne. Their squad is an absolute joke. The majority of these players would start for a lot of League 1 clubs. That is how good that their team is. Some of the players who are probably not even going to make it into their matchday squad will be starting for, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 teams in League 1 next campaign, which is absolutely crazy. Their budget probably doesn't really exist. You know, they've got comfortably the biggest budget in the division. Last season, though, that did see them finish in at 19th, but I feel like this season Paul Warne is going to really put his authority on this squad, and you know, some of their signings are an absolute joke. Will Collar coming in from Stockport, Nathaniel Mendez-Lang coming in from Derby, Aaron Collins coming in from Bolton. That's also to go along with the likes of Alex Gilby, Dan Crowley, Joe Tomlinson, Aaron Namani, who are already at the football club. They've got Lawrence Maguire, Sam Sherrin, Luke Offord. They've got a brilliant squad. I see them comfortably winning the title, potentially breaking the points record this season under Paul Warne. If they don't win the league, even if they finish second, that is an underachieving season, because the squad, the money, the manager, they absolutely have to win the title this season. Just as I said last campaign, and they finished 19th. And there we go then. There are my League 2 table predictions for the 25-26 campaign. The big standouts, Accrington and Cheltenham going down, Grimsby, Swindon, Bristol Rovers and Gillingham all making the playoffs, with Salford, Chesterfield and MK Dons being my top 3. Let me know your thoughts down below. You're probably going to disagree. You're going to have your own opinion, so let me know all that sort of stuff down below. If you do disagree with my reasons, then tell me why you believe that I am wrong. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to drop a like on there for me, and subscribe to the channel as well if you are new. 200 likes on today's video would be massively appreciated. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you very soon for another one.